What's up, boys? It's Nick from Team Tipple 501 here. I am the king of the scrubs, and today I'm going to be bringing you my Domain Monarch deck profile for January 2018. This is sort of a new build, but not really. I have changed a few of the cards around, mainly because Pendulum Edition is becoming more and more prominent in the metagame. Because of the release of Heavy Metal Froze Electrolyte, a lot of people are picking up Pendulum Edition and playing the deck at my locals. Not saying for everywhere, but at my locals specifically, about 35 to 40% of the field is Pendulum. And so this deck is built with Pendulum in mind because I think it's going to be the best deck coming after Extreme Forces, almost pretty much regardless of whether or not we get a ban list. Like, obviously, Spiral has a higher power ceiling than Pendulum Edition does, but Spiral is inconsistent as fuck. Like, even though they have Triple Resort Master Plan, like, it has to play all these bad one-of cards that don't do anything if you draw them, so that's basically it. That's just the disclaimer. I built this deck with Pendulum in mind, so I cut a few of the cards that are bad against Spiral, or good against Spiral, but bad against Pendulum. So I'll have the link to the deck list in the description down below if you don't want to watch this, which is perfectly fine. But I'm going to go kind of in depth about my choices, how the cards work, how you can avoid certain things in certain matchups, etc. So without further ado, let's get into this deck list, shall we? So it's obviously Domain Monarchs. There's nothing really special about the deck, but I'm going to run through the list. So 1 Aether, obviously. Aether is like one of the... She's losing a lot of her... What's the word I'm looking for? The card just isn't that good. Let's put it that way. This card is ass. This card fucking sucks. This is like... But it's the best card in the deck, so this is why you can't play this deck, because Aether's your worst card, but she's your best card. This card just doesn't do enough. It doesn't affect the board as much as it does. Because back when Stormforth was at 3, your opponent always had to fear that they were going to lose possibly 3 of their monsters. Because you could go Stormforth their guy, summon an Aether, Aether summon Karaz, and Karaz will pop 2 of their monsters. So they could essentially lose their entire field presence by 1 card. And you can still technically do that, but you can't give your opponent 2 cards, because they're going to extend their combos unless you have Domain up. So it basically forces you to have Domain. Which, I mean, you can get to Domain relatively easily, but it's also at the same time, like, your opponent's going to out-Domain. You have so many ways to set it up, and they have so many ways to out it. It just comes down to numbers. Triple Erebus, this card is insane. Like, I love this card. You know, the non-targeting removal is good, the graveyard effect is good, just everything is good about it. Play it. This is, like, the one card I'm really debating, Thessalos. This card's actually pretty good against, what's what I'm looking for, Draco. It's also kind of good against Pendulum Magician, but not really. Because the only thing you really take is like Harmonizing or Trap Graph. So I might put in like a different card, but I'm not entirely sure yet. And then 2 copies of Karaz. Karaz is like pretty bad, but you gotta play it. Just because not only does it combo well with Aether, like the ability to just go Karaz Return, generate or like opening Edia, Karaz Return, especially if you have a card banish, can generate you just so much free advantage for absolutely no reason. And then 1 Majesty Fiend. This card is insane against Spiral. Like, this card just basically beats the Spiral deck. On turn 1, if you just put Majesty Fiend on the board, the Spiral player has very few outs to this card. Because Tough can't activate. They can't activate Super Agent to special summon itself onto the field. They can't use Quick Fix to search a card. They can't use Drone. They can't use Master Plan. Like, their only way is to, like, get 3 in the grave. They basically have to go, like, Resort, Search, Sleeper, Resort, Search, Last Resort, and then, like, have a Foolish Burial Goods or something. They gotta find a way to put 3 in their grave and summon the Sleeper, and have Sleeper attack over this in battle. That's the only real way they have to out it, other than, like, evenly matched. But you're not gonna... You basically have to play assuming... the Spiral players are going second, so you essentially have to assume that evenly matches in their deck, so you can play around it. And then Triple Vanity's Fiend. This is, like, one of the freest wins you can get in the game at the moment. This is essentially Free Win Red for Yu-Gi-Oh! For those of you who don't know, Free Win Red is a Magic deck that essentially stops the opponent from being able to play their deck, and this is essentially Free Win Red for Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, this stops the opponent from playing more than Psy-Frames, because with Psy-Frames, there are so many restrictions built into your deck that your deck is terrible. With this deck, it's bad because its cards are on the ban list. Like, if its cards weren't on the ban list, this would probably be the best rogue or budget deck in the format. No question, this deck is insane, but... Triple Vanity's Fiend. This card is like free win. Like, you just put it on board, and if your opponent doesn't out it, you win. It just sucks that Pendulum has so many outs to this card, but what can you do, right? That's it for the tributes. Onto the fodder. Edia, don't let it get ashed. Eidos, don't let it get ogred. But you gotta play 3 of each. Like, normally you could play 2 Eidos, but because of hand traps, you gotta play 3 and 3. You need to keep the engine going. And then the best tribute fodder by far is Link Slayer. Like, this card's insane. I'll get into it in a minute, but you just, like, with Edia, don't let her get ashed. Like, this is the last thing you do in your play sequence. Especially like online, you can't get the physical read like you can in paper Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, you can look at your opponent's facial expression, you can look at the way they're fidgeting with their cards. That can give you information about what they have in their hand. Same with the Eidos here, because like if you open, like this is the last part of your play structure before you summon your tribute fodder if they resolve. So, but just remember, just because this doesn't get ash doesn't mean that they're not holding a hand trap. They'll ogre your Eidos, and then you can't summon your guys unless you have a domain out. But and of course the graveyard effects. But Link Slayer is like insane. Like this is basically like this is going to be the tribute fodder of choice for as long as this deck is around, because this card going second against Pendulum Magician is so fucking good. It forces them to make plays that they don't want to make. Because if you summon this after they search Time Pendulum Graph, if they didn't make Baguska, or they didn't make an Omega to get the Link Slayer out of your hand, they have to use their Time Pendulum Graph and waste it on your Link Slayer. Because otherwise you're going to pop the Time Pendulum Graph and the Star Pendulum Graph, not use your normal summon, and still continue your plays. And you've gotten rid of a ton of their free resources. And it's insane. And this card, like discarding, like you can discard Edia to get a card back. You can discard Eidos, you can discard Erebus, and another thing too is you can special Link Slayer, activate its effect, pitch these two. This discards for cost, you just target. You discard and cost as target, so you pitch Edia Eidos, you pop 2 of their cards, and then you banish Eidos from the grave to special summon out your Edia. You have 2 monsters on board, so even if this gets ashed, you still haven't used your normal summon. So you can make an Erebus, and you can continue with your plays, which is really cool. It very rarely happens because you can usually play around hand traps before you have to, that's what I'm looking for. Before you have to make that play, or before you have to commit to the board, but it's still pretty cool. So, 20 monsters, 3 of the most broken card in the game. Search your super broken cards, and make sure that your super broken cards stay super broken. Domain, this card is fucking nuts, man. This card is so good. And then for the one-ofs, 1 Pantheism, this card is ridiculous, you gotta play it. 1 Stormforth, this card is insane, I wish it was at more than 1. 1 March, and I put Frostblast back in the build, so these are all staple. Most people know what these do, so I'm gonna get these out of the way so I can talk about Frostblast. So Frostblast, if you control a Monarch, you can pop any set card. It can be monsters too. And then while it's in the graveyard, you can banish it and another Monarch spell or trap to pop another set card on the field. And neither of those effects are once per turn. So if you're going second, you can use like Link Slayer to send this to discard this. You can essentially just wreck back row. Back row isn't necessarily important, but if you're in a matchup, because like with Link Slayer, you can hit the Spiral Resort, and then you can start like going after Last Resort and other set cards. Against Pendulum Edition, you can use Link Slayer to attack the Scales and use this to hit Pendulum Graph. And like once you've set up your field presence, your opponent is basically going to be just setting a monster and passing turn, and this lets you get through damage. And then Upstart, Foolish Burial, Rhoda, 1-for-1, Staples. And then 3 Prime. Like I said, I cut Erupt. The card is just really bad against Pendulum Magician. It doesn't do anything. This card lets you grind and its board presence. And I have 3 supers, so I decided to play 3. Yeah, if you couldn't tell, I've been max rating this deck slowly but surely. So 40 cards in the main deck. I'm pretty happy with the list overall. The only questionable choice is the Thestalos. I may be switching this for a second copy of Majesty's Fiend because Majesty's Fiend is fucking stupid. Or I may be putting in Caius. Probably not, though, because Caius is like a card where if you don't go second, the card literally doesn't do anything. So I might be putting in the second Majesty's Fiend over this card, but I'm not entirely sure yet. But moving on to the side deck, we have Divider. And then this is like I put in the middle of the field. If my opponent scapegoats me, I give them pirate tokens. For the actual side deck, 3 Zaphion. This card is amazing against Pendulum Magician. Not only can you hard tribute summon this to domain lock them, even if they use Trap Graph and pop this, you're still drawing a card. Or like the funny thing is you can go like summon Zaphion, battle phase, attack, wipe their board. Second main phase, you can like 1-for-1 out an Edia Eidos, and then you can summon 2 Monarchs and tribute Zaphion and draw a card. It can do stuff like that. so this card's pretty good. Maxi, because this card's broken, as long as it's in the game. If this card gets banned, I'm probably just going to replace it with the third Lancia, because Lancia is like the best card in the side deck. This card is, like, you lose to evenly match pretty hard, because most of your stuff is continuous, like Return is continuous, Domain's a field spell, March is a continuous, Prime is continuous, so you need this card to out evenly match, otherwise you can literally, like, banish 4 of your cards, and sure, you're still probably on 5, maybe you've even gone +1, because you use Pantheism to draw 2 cards, but... You know, you still don't want to get evenly matched for 5. That's not fun. And this card helps you avoid it, so... And it's a level 5. It's a motherfucking level 5. You can tribute summon this motherfucker. Oh, one's a Borg. Fuck Spiral. Like, fuck Spiral, fuck Invoked, and Rogue. And then this is the choice that I keep coming back to, is the Kaiju engine. I hate it. Like, I hate it a lot. But that maybe just because of my locals where nobody's really playing, like, Spiral, and I can't, like, use these to out Sleeper and Firewall Dragon. But the thing is, with Pendulum Edition, with Pendulum becoming the best deck, they're going to try and end up boards of, like, Electromite, Omega, Baguska, Trapcraft, and that helps you out a board like that. Especially you can out the Electromite, and they can stop generating pluses off of that card. You know, because you can't let them leave it up on during your turn, because then they're going to draw another card off Time Pendulum Graph, popping one of their scales. It's just way too much free advantage. So, I'm possibly going to keep these in the side deck, I'm not entirely sure. If Spiral gets hit and Draco doesn't become a prominent force in the metagame, or at least becomes tier 2, I will more than likely be cutting these for different cards. Possibly putting the Erupts in the side deck for running into Spiral and other rogue decks, but... Dark Hole Regeki, these cards are just way too good to not have in the deck. Like, more board wipes is always important. And then 2 copies of Magical Spring. This card is obviously insane, you know. This card can be like a +3 or a +4, so you might as well play it. You don't care about your opponent's stuff not being able to be destroyed. You're going to just win from card advantage anyway. So like I said, that's going to do it for the Domain Monarch deck profile. Nothing really much has changed about the deck. I just really cut Erupt. Erupt's like a really terrible card. So, that is about it for that. Let me know what you think of this list in the comment section down below. I am more than happy to listen to advice at the moment. I'm just not really interested in uploading anything, you know? Like, I'm waiting on Rivals of Ixalan. I'm going to the Rivals of Ixalan pre-release, so hopefully that'll, like, make my videos more interesting. Maybe I can start making Rivals decks, but, you know, we just need a ban list. Because, like, the Counter Fairy Structure deck doesn't come out for another week, so... And we don't get Extreme Force until the very first week of February. So we can only go on theory and speculation as to what Extreme Force is going to do to the metagame. So, but like I said, that's going to do it for this deck profile. Again, leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. I'll have a link to the deck, list in the description down below. I'll have my Twitter down in the description down below. Go follow me on that. And that's about it. My name is Nick from Team Tibble 501. Thanks for watching and get good, scrubs. I'll see you next time.